most dangerous writer who ever lived. Let's go.
December of 1849, Fyodor Dostoevsky, just 28 years old, is marched into a frozen square in St. Petersburg. Here, he is placed before a firing squad. He is to be shot today.
Hey, yo, that's a very interesting intro though. All right.
And the final countdown begins. 3, 2, 1, and... they did not shoot. The soldiers just received a message that Dostoevsky is pardoned. Now he won't be executed. Instead, he's being sent to a prison camp. But this near-death experience would forever haunt him and make him the greatest author the world will ever see. So most of us know Dostoevsky as the depressed.
So basically he was saved from death, and what they did was give him trauma till death.
Writer that teenagers read during their emo phase. But he wasn't always like this. When he was born, he was a pretty normal baby, but this was the last time anyone would ever call him normal. You see, growing up, his father was a military surgeon, so he was raised on the hospital grounds itself, exposed to illness, death, and suffering of other people at this very young age. But Dostoevsky said to himself, "Oh man, I hate this place. My life can't get any worse than this." Right? Right? No. When he was living in hospital premises as a kid, he met this girl and they became extreme.
Yo, hold up. Let me watch it again.
When he was born, he was a pretty normal baby.
Okay, he was a normal baby. Everyone is a normal baby.
But this was the last time anyone would ever call him normal. You see, growing up, his father was a military surgeon, so he was raised on the hospital grounds itself, exposed to illness, death, and suffering of other people at this very young age. But Dostoevsky said to himself, "Oh man, I hate this place. My life can't get any worse than this." Right? Right? No. When he was living in hospital premises as a kid, he met this girl and they became extremely close friends in no time.
I can feel bro was living his best life.
But one night, she was raped and murdered by an unknown man, and this left...
What the fuck did I just witness? I just said they were having the best life, and bro, that was the most twisted thing that I've seen. Like just in a second, just in a blink of a second, everything changed, bro. Alright bro, let's go.
Dostoevsky with a deep wound in his heart that shaped his views about humanity for the rest of his life. He was just 9 years old at the time. While recalling this as an adult, he writes, "To take someone's life is a terrible sin, but to take away one's faith in the beauty of life is even more terrible crime." But still, he said to himself, "Oh man, my life has been pretty bad till now, but I still have hope it won't get any worse." Right? Right? No. In all the misery of...
Bro, why is he even roasting this guy's misery, bro? Come on, bro. Bro is roasting this author's misery. Have you ever seen a more meanest person than this guy?
Of living in a hospital and loss of a friend, his only source of comfort was his mother. She was a very gentle, kind and religious lady, and he was happy living with his mother. But happiness wasn't something life handed out to Dostoevsky. So when he was just 15, his mother also died of tuberculosis. So again, Dostoevsky...
I hope bro is reborn in a very wealthy family, bro. Even the starting is so much depressing, bro. Like, alright bro, let's go.
He went, "Oh man, my life is really miserable now. I have lost my dear friend and my dear mama. What can be worse than this? Nothing." Right?
Bro is back to race baiting again, bro.
Right? Spoiler alert, things are about to get...
If this guy, alright, if you ever die and as a ghost, if you see this guy making a video of you, just do not look at the video, bro. He will rage bait your entire life, and even that you are a ghost right now, you aren't safe, bro. This guy is rage baiting the hell out of you. The best thing you can do is stay away from this guy's reach, or pray to God that this guy doesn't find you, or else you're cooked, bro. You're cooked. Even after death, you're cooked.
So much worse. So his father was still alive? Yay! No, you see, his father was a cruel man, harsh, controlling, and a very condescending man. He even had some peasants that he treated really poorly. So by the time he was 18 years old, these same peasants have had enough of his father and his cruelty and murdered him. Dostoevsky saw this and said, "Oh man, not again." What was that? What is happening to me? This was the first seizure he got when he heard of his father's murder, and he would keep on having them for the rest of his life. But it can't get any worse. Right? Right?
Adult life, it did not get any better. Alright.
When Dostoevsky was 23, he decided to leave school and pursue writing full-time. And because he'd grown up surrounded by poverty, sickness and human misery, it made sense that his first novel, Poor Folk, was about the struggles of, you guessed it, poor folk. The title kind of spoils the plot. And to
Bro isn't living a single second without roasting this guy. This guy is dead. Come on, bro. Chill, relax.
everyone's surprise, this book was an immediate success and very well received by critics. It seemed like a promising start of a very brilliant writing career. For about 5 minutes, because his next few books flopped badly. The literary elite and other writers turned their backs on him. He felt out of place and unwanted. So, looking for a purpose, or maybe belonging, he joined a radical intellectual group known as the Petroshevsky Circle. It was a group of thinkers who discuss about banned books, human rights for peasants, and the problems with the oppressive Tsar regime of Russia. Big mistake, because the Russian government, not a fan of book clubs. So, when they caught a hint about this group, they rounded up all of its members and charged them with treason. And their punishment? Execution by a firing squad. You saw that.
Come on, bro. What did this guy do? Like, why so much misery and pain in his life, bro? Someone make an anime of this guy, man. Like, that would go crazy.
At the beginning of this video, he was tied to a post, a white cloth was put over his head so that he cannot see who will shoot him. Countdown was also done. 3, 2, 1, and plot twist. At the very last moment, they received a letter from the Tsar himself, sparing his life and changing the punishment to forced labor for 4 years. But years later, it was revealed that the whole thing was staged. It was a mock execution, and the Tsar's pardon was actually a tactic commonly used by Russian government to terrify political prisoners into gratitude and loyalty. Good strategy, Russia. Good strategy. You thought the mock execution was bad? Just wait till you watch what he goes through now. So, at midnight, Dostoevsky was fitted with 10 pounds of iron shackles on his feet. Then he was thrown onto an open sledge and dragged across the frozen wastelands of Russia towards Siberia. And the conditions in the prison were brutal, degrading, and inhumane. Years later, he described them as, in summer, intolerable closeness. In winter, unendurable cold. All the floors were rotten, filth on the ground an inch thick. We were packed like a fish in a barrel. There was no room to turn around. From dusk to dawn, it was impossible not to behave like pigs. So yeah, not ideal. It is said that the prisoners were packed so tightly that if one man got up to move to the other side of the room, his chains would often get tangled with the chains of another man. These were the worst years of Dostoevsky's life, and after 4 brutal years in prison, Russian government said, "You're a good man, Dostoevsky. We like you. And that's why you are not going home. You are staying with us, joining military. Or else..." So he was sentenced to 6 more years of forced military service on the desolate Mongolian border. There he had no rank, no status, just a soldier's coat and more loneliness than any man should ever carry. So when he finally returned home, 10 years older now, he was no longer the same man. He was scarred and shattered, but this experience would turn him into one of the greatest authors the world will ever see. So far, his life has been extremely devastating, enough to make any man lose his mind. But there was still one more kind of suffering waiting for him, and trust me, you will feel it too. And it is his love life. This is a new style of videos that never existed on YouTube before, and if you're liking this and want to see more authors, please like this video and tell me in the comments who would you want me to cover next. Back to his love life. Okay, so far Dostoevsky has survived poverty, trauma, a fake execution, actual Siberia, and 10 years of exile. But now was the time for the real pain. Romantic relationships. Let's begin with Maria Dmitrievna, and she was a window. Wait, what? I have a typo in my script. I meant she was a widow. Dostoevsky met her in Siberia during his exile, and at that time she was married, but they had a connection. Or trauma bonding, who knows? But after her husband died, Dostoevsky proposed, and she said yes. So he thought, maybe this is my moment. Maybe I get to be happy now. Oh my sweet child, no. Because they fought all the time, he loved her, and she didn't seem to care. But also, she kinda did. It was confusing. Dostoevsky felt like she may not be the one for him, because while married to Maria, he fell in love with someone else. God.
Alright. Okay. I mean, at this point, the amount of trauma this guy faced, I wouldn't even care if he cheats a bit. Like, come on. Like, the amount of trauma he faced was crazy, bro. No amount of cheating can heal that trauma. But anyways, let's see.
Damn it, Dostoevsky. Apollinaria Suslova. Yes, that's her actual name. He was 40 and she was 21. Yeah, they
What the fuck was that? Alright, anyways, let's go.
met
Let's
at
see.
a reading group. He was like, she's brilliant. She was like, you're kinda pathetic. Naturally, he fell completely in love, like one does. Duh. He wrote desperate letters to her. And she replied with, cape. She inspired some of the most toxic female characters in his book, like Polina in The Gambler or Nastasia in The Idiot. You know, the kind of woman who'd break your heart and then blame you for having a fragile heart. Yeah, eventually she ghosted him, obviously, and Dostoevsky was left heartbroken again. And at this point, God said, enough pain for you, my boy, have some sunshine. And then
Whatever, bro got trolled by a 21-year-old girl while being 40. Alright, anyways.
she showed up. Anna Grigorievna. At the time, she was 20 and he was 44. God damn it, Dostoevsky, I'm beginning to
Again, another young girl. Like, bro was like, alright, I got scammed by a 21-year-old girl. I'm gonna go even lower age now. I'm gonna date 20-year-old someone. Alright, let's
see a
see.
pattern here. Anyways, she was hired to be his stenographer because Dostoevsky had a deadline and absolutely no time. He was writing The Gambler at the time, so in the day he would dictate The Gambler to her, and in the night he would become the gambler himself, addicted to gambling. But Anna, she didn't judge him. She just listened, typed, helped, and just believed in him. So one day he looked at her and went, "Hello, you've been good to me. What if I propose to you?" Hypothetically, of course. And she said, yes, hypothetically, of course. So for the first time in his life, Dostoevsky had found someone who loved him. She took over his finances, organized his writing, helped him to manage his seizures, ran his publishing deals. She became his editor, accountant, caretaker, and wife. And he stayed loyal.
Damn, finally. I hope there is no more trauma in his life. Alright, let's go. Let's see.
Grateful, and loved her for real this time. Thank God. So he survived poverty, he survived epilepsy, he survived fake executions, prison, heartbreak and all. But now he was finally okay. Not perfect,
Yes!
but okay. And thanks to Anna, Dostoevsky finally had a home now, a family, and 2 kids. Good job, Dostoevsky. And he was in his 50s by now, older, slower, but sharper than ever. He wasn't writing because he needed money anymore. He was writing because he had something to say. And what he had to say was terrifyingly brilliant. At this time, he wrote The Brothers Karamazov, his final novel, his masterpiece, a story about fathers and sons, love and hate, all of his own trauma, all of his own philosophy, all of his soul, poured into one book. And he knew it. He even told Anna, if I die tomorrow, I will have said everything I ever wanted. And he did. February of 1881. Dostoevsky was 59. He woke up with a small hemorrhage behind his eyes, and 2 days later, he collapsed. He called for Anna, asked her for a priest, and then he was gone. Just like that. No drama, no seizures, no final monologue. Just peace, which for a man who spent his entire life in spiritual agony was the most poetic ending possible. Over 30,000 people showed up for his funeral. Writers, priests, beggars, students, nobodies, nobility, all packed into streets of St. Petersburg, and they didn't come just to mourn him. They came because somehow this one man had lived through every kind of suffering and still had the courage to write about hope. Click here to watch about Franz Kafka. Bye!
I'm just finally happy that bro got at least an happy ending, bro. I still feel the pain he went through, you know. Like, it hasn't left me. That kind of life, you know. If you were offered being billionaire in your 50s, but you have to live all your 50 years, just like the author Dostoevsky, would you take that? I wouldn't, personally. I wouldn't. We still cannot feel everything that is said in the video, because just saying a story and actually being there and feeling those kind of stuff is different thing.